Hello, everyone, and good day to you. A warm welcome to today's webinar. So, my name is Abayomi Ogunjobi. I am your host for today. And just as a form of introduction, I'm the co-founder and director at Penetry. And I must say that I'm privileged to be a member of the board of directors at Fiduciary Services Limited. So, Fiduciary Services Limited is basically a private client and fiduciary services focused firm located in Victoria Island, Lagos, Nigeria, that's in West Africa. And I must say that we're delighted to have you all join us today for conversations in wealth management. And, without any further ado, right, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the moderator of this session. With almost 2 decades of professional proficiency and acumen, our moderator for today, Mercy Edukoho Amina, is the founder and executive director of Fiduciary Services Limited. Mercy is a passionate corporate solicitor. She's actually a friend of mine, right? And also she's actually a governance expert, a chartered secretary and administrator. She's also a trust and estate practitioner. And, most importantly, she's a family wealth advisor. She has a whole lot of experience in that area. Messi and I have worked together in different capacity, and I can tell you that, she has experience and knowledge in the area of the topics that we're speaking about today. So Messi leads and manages the wonderful team of Fiduciary Services Limited, and she has done an exceptional work in leading the team in what they've achieved from inception even up until now. So Messi, it's my pleasure to hand over to you to go on with the session.
Thank you so much, Abayomi. Yeah, so it's really good to be here and to have our panelists already ready to take us on our conversations today. So it's so much pleasure. This is a biannual webinar where we just speak with industry experts within the field of wealth management, family wealth advisory, family business advisory, family governance advisory. And we try to speak with them to understand what are the trends and dynamics from their day-to-day practice, from their day-to-day work that are affecting the lives and legacies of those they serve, the families and the individuals that they serve. So it's our pleasure to have everyone join us today as we continue with our conversation. So this is the third in the series, and we do hope that we would have more of this series to come in the near future. Without much ado, let me pick up the profile. Yes. So Bilai Zein is the head of the family office, single family office. He's the CEO of Quanon Capital Limited. He discreetly serves families of wealth as well as managing, overseeing their corporate family business and direct operating assets. He has extensive experience in multi-asset, covering the financial, legal, and operational sides alike. He is passionate about wealth management end-to-end and governance, family and corporate, building, mentoring, and managing high-performance team. So, Bilal, thank you so much for being able to still join us. So, the question that we had asked other panelists was, this year and beyond, what would you say are the trends and dynamics that are shaping the lives and legacies of affluent and high net worth individuals?
Well, first, thank you for the panel, and good to see you also for this slight lateness in connecting. It's good to see a few familiar faces and few new ones as well. I'm sure, Asher, with all his experiences, he's covered a lot of the trends, and obviously now with Sabila, I heard what you said. It's all relevant. What I want to add to those trends in terms of what's high on the agenda that I've seen last year and surely this year, in addition to the worries about the risks that are happening in the investment world as well as the security. So obviously high on the agenda, not only on the health that started with mainly with COVID. It was out of a sudden very high on the agenda, the health issues. in addition to being fit, but in terms of health and security and all of that. A natural disaster and then now increased security risks is high on the agenda. The high on the agenda as well is obviously the regulations. I mean, in some of the countries that we operate in, so in the mainly in the Middle East. So here in the UK, obviously regulation tax has been always in place. In the US, the same. However, in the Middle East, tax is a new phenomenon, if you like. And then families here, Asher as well can comment on that. I've been seeing a lot of requests to be more involved and to understand better the tax. Some families are still not sure why they need to pay the tax and what tax is to be paid. So that's another trend. I mean, it's knowledge about the change in regulation. That's very, very new as well. The other thing that's coming as well to light is the governance in terms of, you mentioned Sabila, which is very true about the club investing and all of that. In the past, it was more amicable. Now it's becoming more structured, especially that I've seen some club deals and some relationship going not in the right direction. So now families are a little bit more careful about how they do those club deals or how they approach your co-investing. It's no longer, we're sitting together, having tea and then, because I'm investing, my friend will invest with me. It's becoming a little bit more looked at in a very corporate way, in a way. I'm seeing, as we speak, at least 3 club deals that are not going well, and they have been historically with like 6 or 8 families, each one of them long, unfortunately, illiquid deals. And then at the end of the cycle, I mean, the challenge will become how you keep your other partners aligned with the strategy. So in that aspect now, governance is becoming more and more important in terms of, yes, we'd like to do some club deals together in terms of real estate or in terms of other things, but now it's becoming more critical to have clarity about how we're going to govern that investment. You mentioned nicely about the art. Yes, I mean the art is part of what I call the other soft, or it's not soft anymore because art is becoming more an investment as well as collectibles. But families are more and more looking at the non-typical capital that they are looking at. So historically, art was a collection. Now it's becoming more an asset. A lot of families are taking loans against to invest more and more in the same asset class or to fund their cash flows. So art is becoming almost an asset class as well as the other collectibles, but art seem to be the main one. I mean, ahead of car investing or wine investing or other sort of passion investing. And what else I'm seeing? Yeah, I mean, you mentioned of the cybersecurity and all of that. Yeah, the softwares as well is becoming very important to family offices, so that they can report properly and make sure they protect the assets of their families. These are in brief. I mean, but I can add to what Asher and Sabila have said already earlier.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bilal. Thank you so much. So we've seen the emerging trends, emerging themes across Europe, the Americas, as well as in the Middle East, and even in Africa, just as Sabila reference alluded to earlier. So there's quite like a very, like everybody is on the same page with respect to what those trends are, be it with respect to health, be it with respect to women and wealth, investments, family office, how you structure your assets, be it with respect to co-investing and how you want to invest or how you want to manage, as well as acquisition of asset. What kind of asset are you going to acquire and all that? So it's governance and the governance that go in with it, and the whole ensuring that everything is done in such a way that at the end of the day, there is protection, and there is also there is protection of the assets, and the families are in much better shapes at the end of the day. So Bilal, I'm going to ask you, there's been so much buzz recently. I mean, like 2-3 years back, and even up to now on the family office boom. Right before you came in, we spotlighted a report that was done for DBS Bank. I think it was done by the Economic Intelligence. It was done by the Economic Intelligence Unit for DBS Bank, and it was speaking to why there's so much buzz around the family office. So, what is the family office advantage? I mean, what role does a family office play, if any, with respect to the long-term success of a wealth? And how do you go about setting up a family office for long-term success?
That's a great question. I just need to I mean, touch on what Sabila just said about the women in wealth and women. There are as well the women in family businesses as well. But I mean, I mean, historically in some cultures the women had the power, but it was soft, unwritten, and it was up to the women to have a space, if you like, or just be heard and seen without really needing to be legally mentioned in any document. So I have few examples of that in Saudi and other territory whereby the women, I know two particular families, the patriarch was there, but the grandma, as they used to call her, had all the power. So even if they wanted to, to move an asset, although she didn't have any signing authority, but at the end of the day, they had to go and get her blessing to do such a big. So the power was there. If the woman wanted to do that, obviously it has to be matched by the rest of the family. But I knew many families where the women had the soft power or the hard power if they need to, without really needing to sign any document. And that is now changing. And now, as you said, I mean, they are taking more leading. They are putting themselves forward into the picture, if I may say. In the family businesses, yes, but as well as you are leading now to the family offices. I mean, the recent past, I mean, I know at least 3 or 4 Middle Eastern family offices led by the female side of the family. And they are well equipped, well educated. If not, sometimes they are much better than the others. But the trick is to make it open for them, but they have to put themselves forward. I know a young third generation lady who had really to convince all her uncles that she's the best to lead the family office, and she managed. I mean, she had to do that in the professional approach, so to put presentations, to show them her expertise and all of that. They gave her a chance, and she managed to take on the role. So the reason, I mean, the family offices are, I mean, important, and you're going back to your question, Mercy, it's like they've been historically in place. So the family office per se, forget about the name, how we call it family office or not. The service has been provided since centuries. I mean, it goes back to old age in a lot of cultures. So from Asia to the Middle East to the medieval Europe. So the family office was in one shape or another there as a service. It's about providing service to the families of wealth. It's the confidentiality, but as well to make things happen the way they want, and without having to rely on the unforeseen per se to drive their life and wealth. So it could be pure putting things in trust, and then the trustee at the time could have been the family office professional, wherever it is there. In other culture there are no trust, but there are like similar things. So the most recent, if you like, what I call a new wave of marketing about family offices, it became sexy to have a family office. Some family offices were there just because it was, I want to have one because my cousin has one or my friend has one. But if they're doing that for that reason, obviously that's the wrong reason, and it has to have a purpose. Like any other business, the family office is a business. It has to be led with a proper understanding first of the needs of the family. It means that they need to understand who are the family, who are they serving. So we have to understand what are the services needed for that group of people. How are they going to deliver that? Then it should be part of a business plan that they should put together with proper, strategy, investment strategy, and governance in place. The family office extend more than the financial assets. More and more family offices are doing the other services for the family, looking after their collection, real estate, personal real estate, concierge, lifestyle. So part of that service, it has to be looked at in details and put in writing, going back to the governance, and be clear and communicated to the families. That has to be always reviewed as well. The fit for purpose has to be reviewed every period, so 3-5 years. When there's a generational change, it has to be revisited, and it has to be tuned accordingly. So the family office is the first point, what I call of call for those families. You should have the risk map. I mean, that's the job of the family office. You look at the risk map of the family and then try to provide as much as possible a solution for that risk. The risk could be from generational transfer. It could be from asset protection. It could be from, anything else that could. So it should be the big risk matrix that they should look at. But as well, it should be the quality of the service they can provide. So it's not, the family office should not be there because, I mean, it was the favorite person of the family to lead that office. It should be on merit. And that's where the challenge of the newer generation of family offices, whereby it's really now managed on a meritocracy more than, I'm appointing, the family office head because he was my friend or my trustee or my lawyer or even my son or daughter in this case. So these are the trends. The family offices are getting more and more involved in philanthropy, which was before dealt with, I mean, we mentioned about that earlier, the philanthropy and the legacy of the family. Historically, in some cultures, again, I go back, it was managed by the female part side of the family. So the wife, the daughter used to look at, charity, doing more good for the, for the society. Now the family office is being asked more and more to organize that, and Asher alluded to that as well. I can see more shift from, just for the legacy, let's just fund a school and name it after the family, and then we'll have the brand that will carry on over generations. Now I'm seeing more and more structured and professionally managed funds, and some of them are in, the donor advised funds, is becoming more and more popular, whereby they have an objective. The family can be part of that, but it could be managed professionally based on the requirements of that family. It could be as well another way of getting the family members involved on that, on their specific skills, but it's professionally managed. So donor advised funds is becoming more and more popular, because it can be regulated and it suits the purpose of the family. So the family office is involved in possibly either setting up that fund or managing or advising or enabling. So this is where the family office can play that part as well. So all in all, the family offices can exist, but at the same time, I've seen family offices that are winding down because families are splitting, and then the family office can sit in between splitting families and splitting branches of the family. And then the family office, they have to be really ready for that day as well. And this is where some family offices are not ready, and then it becomes a disaster. It just becomes, disaster recovery as opposed to proper managing of an exit. So that's in brief, if you like, about the most recent trends in the family office arena.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Just mentioning the fact that across generation, you might just have family members splitting. How do you manage that process so that it doesn't really become a disaster? How do you manage it? Because you all came in as one, probably the patriarch, the matriarch set it up, and over the years, you just find out that you are growing apart. How do you manage that dynamics? How do you make sure it doesn't become a disaster?
Obviously, in some theories and books, there's the emotional intelligence of the family office is as important as the financial intelligence, or as any other capabilities that they have. They should be able first to regularly monitor emotionally what's going on in the family. If there are any friction, it's obvious. So don't take any friction lightly as a family office professional. Sometimes it's not the role of the family office to deal with it, but it's the family office role to prepare for it and possibly have an honest and open discussion with the family members individually and then possibly collectively. And this is whereby the family office is the best enabler, to deal with families on their constitution, on the family council, on those meetings, to be part of that journey, because they can then really see what Asha said, the non-written aspect of those relationships, because the unwritten aspects are usually the factors that makes the whole system either fail or succeed. We can have 10,000 pages of documentation, but I mean, at the end of the day, if the family members are not interested, I mean, simply it's better to find another way of simplifying that and splitting the way. So the family office role would be to approach that emotionally in an intelligent way and to know their capabilities, because I mean, that could be something that they will lack in the family office. Definitely it's the time then to bring professionals who are really expert in that field to help. The family office needs to know, I mean, they're what we call their lacune. So they are good at things, but they lack, knowledge of other possible sectors, or they need to bring in relevant experts to deal with that particular challenge. And this is the role of the family office, is to be the project manager in a way, bringing in the experts to reach, the solution required and desired for the families.
Yeah, I think something that you did mention, which there's a lot of focus on, is also the fact that there should also be a shift away from the financial. So family offices, there's a lot of concentration on investments, on the assets, on the financial aspect. Meanwhile, when you look at when you talk about wealth management, it's not just restricted to just the financial. That is an enabler, but you have a whole lot of other capitals. If you want to go with JH, we have the 5 capitals of wealth. So how in a family office do you make that very pronounced? How do you implement the other capitals and just use the financial as the enabler to be able to ensure that the other capitals, whether they are social capital, intelligence capital, and everything within the family space comes to life? How do you, because there's this mindset that when you're setting up, if you don't think it's a sexy fad, then the mindset is, oh, it's just where I'm going to warehouse all my investments and that's it. But I think that at the end of the day, there is more to wealth than just financial assets. And as Asha said earlier, you also have the health. I mean, communication, we've talked about a lot of this. So how within the family office space do you bring up those other very critical, important issues that are not necessarily looking at the top line and the bottom line?
Well, I mean, the first thing is the family office role would be to do a fact finding again. So going back to how the family office should be designed or run. I mean, there is no magic sauce that would happen overnight. It's a continuous work. But first, I mean, you need to understand who are the family again, do a fact finding about the needs of the family, what are you going to serve them, and then open up other aspects of the service that they might not have thought about. I mean, Asha has mentioned again the health. I mean, some family offices have recruited chief health officer just to look after, the health aspect of the family. Some other family offices have recruited chief educational officers to make sure that they provide the proper educational path to the next generation. So you have to do a fact-finding mission. You have to be very well aware of the needs of the family, but as well very well aware of what's the current needs or that should be brought into the families as well that they might not be aware of. That's the role of the family office. Again, the financial assets, I mean, it's been served. I mean, there are the bankers, the asset managers. I mean, these are, what I call, very hard assets and very hard topics that are well served. However, then what we used to call the soft side of those services are actually the hardest to find, because here no two families are the same, no two generations within the same family are the same. And here where the family office, if that family office is required to do so, this is where they need to be more creative, more understand the needs, and provide the right solutions. There is no one solution to all families. There are more families that possibly could be interested in one aspect than the others. The family office role is to provide that, but to open up as well the discussion for the other needs for that family. If they are really want to be in ESG, for example, that's slightly separate from being completely into health investing or look at other things. So you have to have first the knowledge to bring in the experts, but as well you have to know that there are limitations as well. There's the dream to have everything, but then you are faced by budgets, costs, governance, and this is where it could go wrong as well. So you need to know your limitations, not over aspire, not oversell, not overdo it as well. And there are, some days you say, okay, this is what we can do, and that's it. This is what we can achieve. You have to be realistic about what you can do as well, not overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah, fantastic. Please speak on, there's a lot of conversation on climate impact. There's a lot of conversation on sustainability, and ESG, and just about everything that is affecting us globally and as people, as human beings on Earth. So looking at purposeful legacies, when it comes to intergenerational work planning, how do you think that families can address this impact or these issues around climate, issues around sustainability, and ESG? So I'm also going to ask Bilal to also speak about it. What are we seeing with respect to family offices, how they hold assets, and what kind of assets, what influence are these issues around climate and sustainability and that whole drive, that whole force?
Well, what I want to say is that this subject is the sexy term of the current affairs, if I may say. Before that, we used to have ethical investing. Before that, we used to have impact investing and all of that. So it's another, national possibly progression of a topic to say, okay, we need to be doing good or differently.
Yeah.
The take on the ESG in family offices, there are two approaches. That I've seen. There might be more differently, but I've seen, the passive approach. Yes, as a family, we want to. It's the things now to be seen in. So we want to be in ESG. Let's just pick funds who are doing ESG, rated ESG, and then that's it. It's kind of out of our way. Peace of mind. We've done our bit. These families are doing great by just outsourcing that. Is that the right thing to do? Possibly for them, possibly not the same for others who are really going more into the deeper side of the ESG. So on that aspect, I've seen. I met with a family. The daughter was leading the ESG, if you like, program. All what they were doing, yes, they were investing in ESG funds. So that's great. You can then pick themes within those funds, which is, again, great. But when you go to drilling down on how much you know about, the real ESG part, because at the moment there are ratings for ESG, but we all know that. I have my personal view, and I don't know if you can agree with me. Let's start with the easy part. The environmental, yes, you can track it. There are metrics. There's a lot of things that you can look at and say, okay, I possibly can do better or less so on the environmental. The social is a little bit subjective. The governance is as well subjective. If you need to go into the governance side of things and see, okay, it's well governed, not because I have a nice board with mixed male, female, LGBT, that it's now a good governance. The real governance goes about the expertise of the people sitting on the board more than who they are. It doesn't matter if they're white, black, women, boys, girls. It doesn't matter if they are just there because of how they look like or who they are. That's the wrong governance. A good governance would be just having the best in class for that particular business or sector, taking the right decision, even if they're all of the same, whatever you want to call it. So the governance side is really blur, what I say. Then and in between, you have all the greenwashing that was, yes, you can pay yourself out of this. So yeah. In terms of the family office, here it goes again, going back and understanding what are the objectives of the family into this domain, ESG. Are we doing it really for the environmental part, social part, or government? And then see how really we can touch each point of those deeply if this is what's required from the family. And it could be doing things on their own. So I've seen families, because I mean, they were interested in particular on the social part. They have allocated money to invest in Africa in some particular aspects. And then out of their investment, a few years later, they run out of money for that. So the daughter who was responsible for that had to come up with solutions. So she came back to the board of the family office and said, okay, I've run out of money. What do I need to do? And then they helped her redesign something which is, instead of being completely charitable, actually profitable, but on her social objective. And it was run professionally. Was it the best governance? Yes, possibly, because it was still done in-house, but it was the best social with returns that she can redeploy. It was managed professionally as, you know, as an investment. So she had to compromise possibly a little bit on her social objectives to make it more recurrent, or to take longevity instead of, yes, I've spent the money, and that's it. It's a one shot. So the family office is here to help deliver the needs as per the objective and the strategy. And if they cannot, obviously, it's what I've said earlier. I mean, we need to bring in experts and bring in the best in class for that particular project that we're carrying. It doesn't need to be done in-house. I mean, most of the family offices are very thin. You need to bring in the best in class for each, possibly, I mean, investment or each transaction that you do. And this is how you have to deal with it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to stay with you, and we would look at some very important issues when it comes to managing families, especially families of wealth. We all know that there is no one, I mean, there are different personalities. So there's no one child that is the same with the other child. There are no two people that are exactly alike. And there are times where you do have challenges within families. There are times where you have addictions, challenges with addictions. There are times where you have spendthrift issues, challenges for those that are inheritors, as well as other issues that you would have, divorce, single parenthood, blended families, and all that. How do you, I mean, as advisors, as experts within the wealth management space, be it within the family office space, how do you navigate these issues when they arise in a family? And how are you supposed to work around these issues? What is the roadmap so that at the end of the day, you do have legacies come out from those families, and you don't have it all embroidered in one scandal or the other. So what's the roadmap to manage issues around addictions, spendthrift challenges, divorces, blended families, and all that? So what would you say?
Well, I mean, again, I mean, like Asher, I mean, I have to deal with those. I mean, I've dealt, unfortunately, with a couple of them. Some of them not for the main family that I deal with, through, I mean, some of my friends. So the first thing that we need to do is try to objectively understand the situation, try to get clarity. And you need to be at equal distance from the parties involved. So, I mean, again, prevention is the best way of cure. So as a family office, let's take, I mean, marriages as an example. If you know that a marriage is going to happen, the best thing the family office can do is part of the structure that you have, part of, depending if the families have assets in trust or whatever, is to make sure that, I mean, in some culture, prenup are not something that they would consider. Bring that into the picture. Even in some culture or religion that prenup would mean nothing, still bring it up and try to find a solution. This is where the family office can come into that particular aspect. So the in-laws subject has to be very open and clearly discussed. Where the family office can help is to bring that subject on the table for the concern. Are we totally expert in that? Definitely not. But then we'll have to bring either our, tax advisors, family law advisors. We have to orchestrate, the resources to reach that solution. The family office role is to just keep an eye. It's like a radar to see, okay, now we have a daughter of a certain age. Possibly it's time to think about her marriage, or it's a son who is possibly doing things which look like from the expenses, because sometimes the family offices are, tasked to look at some of the expenses at high level. We don't know the details, but if you see trends that are changing, is to flag that, okay, for that particular family member, there is a change in habits. So how can we approach it delicately? Because it's, at the end of the day, you don't want to come to the parents and tell them, okay, I know that your son is doing something wrong, but it's your job as well to highlight it. So in one particular family that they've asked me, I knew them, obviously. They were not my client per se, but we knew them. And I've been asked to get to understand what the son was doing. And I was close to both, the father and the son, and I've just realized that, there's a complete disconnect. The father has no clue what the son was doing, and the son was doing things that it started, like gambling. He started he's done a mistake, then to cover his mistake, he's done a larger mistake. And as Asha said, in this case, he had the power to sign and authority and all of that. So he abused the power to hide things from his father. So at the end of the day, they end up in a very awkward position whereby, none of them was direct enough to have that open conversation. I've been asked to, and also it started by pure mistake. There was a health issue, and I approached, I was asked to look at and help on the health issue of one of them, and I was involved in those discussions, side discussions. Okay, it's happening. I'm not happy, and I was tasked to then try to bridge the gap between the father and the son. Obviously, the problem was much bigger for both of them than what they had anticipated. Was I the right expert then to solve it? No, but I had to tell them separately and to find the right possibly tools and resources to resolve that. Now, fast forward 2 years later, that happened maybe 3-4 years ago. They managed to go up in the open and resolve the issues. But if it wasn't for possibly me being asked accidentally to get involved in something, I knew that the problem was much bigger. So the family office cannot be, the expert in everything, but you need to be able to open what I call uneasy discussion. You have to be as comfortable with yourself to be direct and to take a distance. You need to make sure that you understand your boundaries, take a distance, but at the same time, don't be afraid of saying the truth the way it is, nicely, tactfully. You cannot come to the father and tell him, yeah, your son is an idiot and he's done X, Y, Z. And you cannot come to the son and say, your father is right, and then he will go completely crazy. So, and if you don't know how to say it, bring the experts. There are experts therefore, to deal with those situations. If it's too challenging, definitely you can bring the expert to be the mediators, and then just provide choices for the family. Bring 1, 2, 3, let them meet with them, see if the chemistry works, see if the scope will work, and then that will be their job to help the family achieving a resolution. So this is how I'd approach it.
Yeah, fantastic. I think that just speaks to the role that the family office should play. So if it's really going to be an advantage for generational wealth planning families and those that are desirous of that, having very good legacies, I think that the family office that they put together should be one that is robust enough. Either they outsource or they have those competencies, or they are ready to, or they have the experts available to bring in to kind of manage those competencies. I think yeah, that is really, so it's not just about.
Yeah, you have to be tactful. In one particular investments that we had, it was again a club deal, and what we realized, we're minority investors, but we realized that the son who was running that investment had issues with the business. At some stage, we managed to find out that he was stealing money from the business. We were minority investors, but it happened to know that, I know the parents through another friend. So we just contacted them and thought, okay, this is what we know so far. For us, it wasn't a big thing. I could write off my investment and that's it and move on. But through the family friend, we managed to speak to the parents. And the parents, at the end of the day, were not aware. So in terms of the tactical approach, they came back to all other investors to say, we are going to honor wherever, although legally, they didn't have to, but as parents, they were not aware, and it was brought to them, the addiction of their son through, this, the business metrics, and they had to deal with it. It wasn't easy, but it was done through, a third-party connection, and the family, at the end of the day, they were made aware, and they took the decision to honor, practically the financial liability that the son had brought into the business. So there's no one answer. It could be disastrous, but the job of the family office, like any other advisor, is to try to find the best way out with the less losses possible.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So what would be your concluding comments?
The understanding the limitation is definitely one key aspect. So not being afraid to say no. Usually the other aspect of what we are not really sometimes good at is to push back and to say no. Not necessarily because, as professionals, and here's the beauty of what I call the family offices as other advisors, you are aligned. Obviously, you will not be popular when you say no, but this is when you are well respected later on in life. It doesn't mean if you say no that it's a no. The family could still overturn your decision or your role, but you have to be as honest, as open about it. So the using as much as we can our integrity, honestly, and not being sidelined with side issues. That's the critical thing for family offices and professionals. So you have to keep your ethics, as well as, as Asha said, understanding our limitations to bring in the resources needed when we have those shortages. So that's in brief. In terms of female, male, whatever it is, honestly, that to me, and that current now world of digital media and all of that, it's equal opportunity, I may say. It's up to each person now to approach and do what they want. And even with the most conservative, families now, I can see from the ones that I know, obviously I don't have all the expertise. Let's, for example, in deep Africa, but from my exposure, it's equal opportunity. It's just you have to put yourself forward to it, prove yourself, and then move on. But it takes courage, and you need to market yourself as well on both sides.
Yeah, fantastic. What do you want to say to the rising gen?
So I'm just going to rehash some of the points that both my esteemed panelists mentioned. Sabila talked about financial literacy. That's crucial for the next generation. Bilal mentioned, again, exposure to education, and most certainly humility and grace and patience. There is an clear issue where the next generation wants to take 2 steps at a time. It is not advisable, and only experience will be able to guide and steer and hold them that ways. Emotional intelligence, easier said than done, but if they can invest into emotional intelligence, that would go a long way. Patience, humility. So yeah, I think a lot of good things have come out from the other 2 panelists, and I think the next gen would do well to kind of embrace some of these suggestions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bilal. It's been fantastic. Absolutely fantastic just listening to you. We could actually understand the depth of knowledge, the depth of experience, the expertise that was available today. So thank you so much, everyone. We've come to the end of our first panel.